Hello, my name's Andrew Zhang. I'm an owner and acupuncture and Eastern medicine practitioner at Rise Acupuncture and Wellness Clinic here in Bellevue, Washington. I'm a former biomedical engineer and a licensed acupuncturist in the state of Washington, representing the 8th generation in a traditional Chinese medicine practice. Because of my professional background in biomedical science and my heritage in traditional Chinese medicine, I'm able to offer a unique, evidence-based and holistic perspective on health. I've made it my mission in life to create a healthier and happier world, and my clinic and the Spread the Wellness initiative are my first real steps on this path. In this video, I'd like to share with you some actionable health advice to help you optimize your physical and mental health. Through my literature research, my own life experience, and my experience as a healthcare provider, I've found that no amount of healthcare can stand in for good lifestyle choices or make up for bad ones. That being said, everyone's different, and what works for one person may not work for another. The advice I'm going to offer is based on my reading of the current body of medical research and my clinical experience, and it should work for nearly everyone. I'll address each of what I consider to be the 4 pillars of health: sleep, stress management, diet, and exercise. Of the 4 pillars, sleep is the most important because if you're not sleeping well, your ability to handle stress will be diminished, and you'll have less energy to exercise and be less likely to make healthy dietary choices. The most important practice for sleep is to get sunlight on the eyes first thing in the morning upon waking, preferably around the time of sunrise, and again around the time of sunset. This is critical because it sets your circadian rhythm, which coordinates the timing of a wide range of processes in the body, including the release of cortisol and melatonin that control your sleep-wake cycle. The circadian rhythm is primarily controlled by the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, a tiny bilateral structure in the hypothalamus. This central circadian pacemaker receives photic, i.e. light input, from the photosensitive ganglion cells of the retina. The SCN then sends the signal to structures such as the pineal gland, which produces melatonin for induction of sleep. The amount of time you need to spend viewing sunlight depends on the number of photons that enter your eyes. If it's cloudy, you'll need to spend more time outside, but a good rule of thumb is about 15 to 30 minutes. Also, it's important to get direct sunlight whenever possible, because even on a cloudy day, the number of photons outside will be much higher than any artificial light can produce, and windows filter out a large percentage of the light energy. This practice also aligns with traditional Chinese medicine, which teaches that it's important to live in alignment with external yin-yang, in this case with the diurnal cycle. So go out and chase the sunrise and sunset. In line with this practice, it's also important to limit your exposure to bright light, particularly blue light, in the evening. The blue-yellow balance of sunlight shifts from primarily blue to primarily yellow throughout the day. Dimming interior lights and shifting the light balance to be more amber in color mimics this. Also, screens radiate a lot of blue light, so avoid viewing screens at least an hour before bed. It's worth noting that merely eliminating blue light by, for instance, wearing blue light blocking lenses isn't always effective, particularly if the light source is bright. While light input taken in from the eyes is the primary signal for the central circadian rhythm, other factors can affect the local circadian rhythms in the body. Because of this, it's also important to avoid eating and strenuous exercise within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime. Another thing you can do to improve sleep is to consume some foods containing tryptophan with some carbohydrates for dinner, and then practice gratitude before bed. This is effective because melatonin, which induces sleep, is synthesized from serotonin. Serotonin is the neurochemical most associated with the feeling of gratitude and contentment. The precursor to serotonin is tryptophan, a large amino acid that can be found in foods like turkey and other poultry, eggs, and beans. Because of tryptophan's large size, it has trouble crossing the blood-brain barrier. Carbohydrates prioritize the shuttling of tryptophan across the barrier, where it can then be converted into serotonin. This mechanism is why you feel so sleepy after Thanksgiving. If you're feeling stressed, just breathe. I know it sounds cliche, but hear me out. This is called the physiological sigh, a deep double inhale through the nose, which is a long inhale until your lungs are almost at capacity, followed by a second short inhale until completely full, then a long slow exhale through the mouth. There are two main reasons for why this works. One, when you're stressed, your brain sends a signal through the phrenic nerve to your diaphragm, telling it to increase respiration rate, which makes breathing shallow. But the phrenic nerve has both efferent and afferent neurons, which basically means it's a two-way street. When you breathe deeply into the abdomen, you're telling your brain, everything's cool, just chill out. 2. The physiological sigh mimics the sigh reflex, which is something that you do naturally as the alveoli, which are little sacs of air in your lungs where gas exchange occurs, collapse, increasing the blood carbon dioxide to oxygen ratio. This process accelerates exponentially when you're stressed. The second short inhale of the physiological sigh reinflates the alveoli, which restores normal gas exchange, which also tells your brain to chill. From a TCM perspective, when you're stressed out, the balance between yin and yang is shifted toward yang. In the body, yin and yang can, in some ways, be correlated to the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, respectively. The physiological sigh activates the parasympathetic nervous system by dumping carbon dioxide. However, the reverse is also true. If you're feeling down or your energy levels are low, you can activate the sympathetic nervous system by increasing oxygen intake through Tummo or warrior breathing. Tummo, which translates to inner fire, is a meditative breathing practice originally practiced by Tibetan Buddhist monks that combines breathwork with visualization. The practice begins by visualizing a fire in your lower abdomen, just below your navel. In TCM, this area is known as the Dantian. Place your hands over this area. Imagine that you're a large hollow balloon with this ball of fire inside. Inhale deeply through your nose, arching your back slightly, expanding your torso and chest. Imagine the air fueling the fire within you, helping it to grow larger and hotter. Exhale strongly through the mouth as if you're blowing out candles. Curl forward, rounding the spine. Imagine the flame and its heat are spreading throughout your body. Continue this breath pattern for 5 breaths while visualizing the fire. After the 5th inhale, swallow gently and for as long as you can, hold the air in your lungs and contract your pelvic floor muscles, creating an internal pressure by pushing down with the diaphragm and up from the pelvic floor. Then exhale slowly, relaxing your muscles. The controlled hyperventilation of Tummo style breathing has the opposite effect of the physiological sigh and actually stimulates the release of adrenaline, while the breath hold brings you back down slightly so that you end up in an alert but calm state. You can also use the fire visualization to increase your drive to achieve some goal. Repeat the cycle of breathing a few times and you'll feel more energetic, focused, and driven. Another stress management cliche, go for a walk, also happens to be effective. When you're walking, your eyes make constant lateral movements to continuously update your brain on where you are in space. These lateral eye movements quiet circuits in areas of the brain, such as the amygdala, that are responsible for stress. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or EMDR therapy, is a form of psychotherapy that leverages this phenomenon to help patients process and release traumatic experiences. During an EMDR therapy session, the therapist will briefly ask the patient to focus on a traumatic memory and instruct him or her to perform side-to-side eye movements while thinking of the memory. The aim is to dissociate the traumatic memory from the emotional reactions by simultaneously recalling the source of anxiety and using lateral eye movements to placate the stress response. This also forces the brain to split its resources between memory recall and visual focus. So if you have an anxiety disorder, you may want to look into a psychotherapist who employs EMDR therapy. Or if you don't have an anxiety disorder but are feeling anxious or stressed, you may want to try going for a walk while thinking about how to get past whatever is stressing you out. While breathwork and walking are both great ways to manage stress quickly in the moment, it's also important to improve your resilience to stress by practicing self-induced mild stress, such as deliberate cold exposure, intermittent fasting, and exercise. Stress management is a skill, and just like any other skill, you get better at it with repetition. So, practicing self-induced mild stress increases resilience to stress, which allows you to stay calmer in a stressful situation. Also, these practices have the added benefit of promoting DNA repair. In other words, they're anti-aging. Finally, with regards to stress, it's important to understand that stress can actually be enhancing and not debilitating. Epinephrine, norepinephrine, and cortisol, which are released during the stress response, are accompanied by dopamine when we decide to confront our stressors head-on. So whether stress helps us or hurts us depends on how we frame it in our minds. This is the neurochemical basis for growth mindset. Our general dietary recommendation is very simple. Eat whole foods, organic if possible, not too much or too little, and mostly plants. If you can follow this simple piece of advice, most of your dietary concerns will be resolved directly or indirectly as a result. However, in a little more detail, eat more fruits and vegetables, which are rich sources of phytonutrients, prebiotics, vitamins, minerals, and plant proteins. Eat in moderation whole grains, which are rich in complex carbohydrates and prebiotics, nuts and seeds, which are a rich source of polyunsaturated fats like omega-3 fatty acids, meat, eggs, fish, seafood, and dairy, which are rich sources of proteins, healthy fats, vitamins, and minerals. Some nutrients, such as creatine, can't be obtained from plant-based foods. Oily fish, like salmon and sardines, contain healthy fats like DHA and EPA that are not commonly found in plants. Fermented foods, which are a rich source of probiotics, will support a diverse gut microbiome, and nutritional supplements such as multivitamins, fish oil, and probiotic supplements, which can also help you achieve a balanced nutrient profile, especially if you're unable to consume an adequate amount of certain nutrients from your diet. Eat less foods with added sugars. Excess sugar intake can lead to metabolic disorders like type 2 diabetes and obesity, as well as reduced cognitive function. Foods with added salt. Excess salt intake can lead to high blood pressure and its associated disorders, such as heart disease, kidney disease, and stroke, and increases risk of a variety of other conditions, including diabetes, gastric cancer, kidney stones, osteoporosis, and dementia. Unhealthy fats. Excess intake of unhealthy fats, particularly trans fats, can contribute to obesity and other metabolic disorders. And processed foods, which often contain high amounts of sodium, sugar, and/or preservatives, many of which are carcinogenic. Beyond this advice, we give our clients more specific guidance based on their individual constitutions, which are assessed based on both TCM and Western medical principles. For example, if you're cold-natured, meaning you tend to feel cold and have cold extremities, I'd recommend that you eat fewer cooling foods, such as raw vegetables and herbs like mint, and more warming foods like lamb, ginger, and other warm spices. But just as important as what you eat is how you eat, i.e. practicing mindful eating. Instead of rushing through a meal, mindlessly consuming food, eating while working, or watching TV while eating, savor each bite, pay attention to flavors, and eat slowly. This practice can enhance digestion, promote better nutrient absorption, and help prevent overeating. Intermittent fasting, which I mentioned during the stress management section of this video, is another great practice to regulate digestion and metabolism. Research has shown that the optimal time frame seems to be an 8 to 10 hour eating window and a 14 to 16 hour fast. So for example, restricting your eating to 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. If this isn't possible for you, try to at least refrain from eating for the first hour after waking and the 2 to 3 hours before going to bed. Lastly, staying hydrated is critically important for all aspects of health. It's important to regularly drink small amounts of water rather than sporadically drinking large amounts of water. This is because sipping water will allow your body to better absorb the water that you're drinking. It's also important to drink warm water, i.e. close to body temperature, rather than drinking very cold or very hot water, because warm water is more easily absorbed by the body. If you're drinking very cold or very hot water, allow the water temperature to equalize for a moment in your mouth before swallowing. General physical preparedness, or GPP, in the athletic world can be defined as a preparatory phase of training that's intended to provide balanced physical conditioning in endurance, strength, speed, flexibility, and other basic factors of fitness. In other words, it can be considered all-around fitness. For athletes, achieving a certain level of GPP forms a necessary foundation of physical conditioning upon which they can build sport-specific skills. While the concept of GPP originated from the athletic world, it's applicable to non-athletes as well. In the context of normal life, GPP can be thought of as having the physical ability to perform the various activities of everyday life, as well as to respond to emergency situations in which one would need to fight or take flight. In other words, achieving a certain level of GPP will allow you to do what you want and need to do, as well as to protect yourself and your loved ones during an emergency. With the goal of GPP in mind, we need to incorporate cardiovascular exercise, resistance training, mobility and flexibility training, and brain and body exercises into a well-rounded exercise routine. The most important exercise practice for overall health and longevity is to get 120 to 180 minutes per week of low to moderate intensity cardiovascular exercise, i.e. Zone 2 training. Zone 2 training is defined as exercise that maintains your heart rate in the range of 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate, which can be roughly estimated by subtracting your age from 220. Using the conversation test, you should still be able to hold a conversation, but your breathing will be a little labored. Zone 2 training promotes mitochondrial biogenesis, mitochondrial efficiency, and metabolic flexibility. Mitochondrial biogenesis means the creation of mitochondria within the cells. Mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. They produce all of the energy the cell needs to function. The more mitochondria in each cell, the more energy you can produce. Mitochondrial efficiency is the ability of the mitochondria to produce energy from nutrients, primarily glucose and fatty acids. So, the higher the mitochondrial efficiency, the more energy you're able to extract from the food you eat. Metabolic flexibility refers to the ability of your mitochondria to shift between fat and glucose as an energy source, according to the physiological demands and nutritional circumstances. Metabolic inflexibility can lead to metabolic disorders like diabetes and obesity. Basically, Zone 2 cardio will keep your mitochondria healthy, which is important for all aspects of health. Conversely, unhealthy mitochondria results in mitochondrial dysfunction, which is relevant to cancer growth, immune system function, dementia, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and many more common diseases. Bonus tip: go for a 20 to 30 minute power walk or light jog every morning, and you'll get the metabolic and cardiovascular benefits of Zone 2 training, the circadian rhythm setting benefits of viewing morning sunlight, and the stress reducing benefits of optic flow at the same time. Now that's a lot of health benefit bang for your exercise buck. In addition to Zone 2 cardio, if it's within your ability, you should also try to reach your maximum heart rate at least once per week, because it'll increase your VO2 max, which is a measure of the maximum amount of oxygen your body can utilize during exercise and is the best indicator for cardiovascular fitness. Exercise at this level of intensity strengthens your heart and improves the efficiency of your circulatory system. This benefits all systems in the body, thereby reducing your risk of heart disease, stroke, and other health problems. This also increases your endurance and improves your overall physical performance, which can make it easier for you to perform activities in your daily life, or to get away from zombies during the zombie apocalypse. A great way to implement this type of exercise is high-intensity interval training. For example, you can do burpees for 30 to 60 seconds, followed by 15 to 30 seconds of rest for 4 to 12 bouts, depending on your fitness level. But it's important to be safe when you're trying to reach your maximum heart rate. Make sure to warm up properly and listen to your body. If you feel like you can't go on, it's okay to take a break. And if you have any health concerns, be sure to consult with your doctor before starting a new exercise routine. Another important component of GPP is resistance training. Resistance training has a wide variety of benefits, from increasing strength to improving bone density and metabolism to boosting mood. Regardless of the type of resistance training you choose, it's important to keep these key principles in mind. 1. It's all about balance. This means to train every part of the body. Yes, your legs too. Failing to do so will cause you to develop postural imbalances, which will inevitably lead to pain, and movement restrictions. 2. Use proper form. This will help to prevent injury. If you can't do an exercise with strict and proper form, reduce the resistance. Leave your ego at the door, or you'll be on your way to Snap City. 3. Go through the full range of motion. Failing to go through the full range of motion will cause the muscles to shorten, leading to decreased flexibility and mobility. 4. Focus on compound exercises. Compound exercises are multi-joint exercises and are good for developing functional strength. 5. Focus on the mind-muscle connection. This reinforces the neural circuits involved in the exercise, which enhances your training efficacy. Don't just go through the motions. Okay, so you've got strength and cardio, but you won't be able to do much with those without flexibility and mobility. Two different but intimately related abilities. Flexibility is the ability of a muscle or muscle group to lengthen passively through a range of motion. Mobility is the ability of a joint to move actively through a range of motion. And as such, it also involves stabilization and motor control. Both flexibility and mobility are important for injury prevention and maximizing performance during workouts. For example, to achieve optimal deadlift position, you need flexible hips and mobility in several other joints and muscles. For example, tight hamstrings will inhibit your hip motion. When these primary movers, i.e. hips and hamstrings, are inhibited, neighboring joints and muscles that are typically much weaker, such as the low back, must compensate in order for you to lift the weight. This is not only a recipe for injury, but it also renders the exercise ineffective for building strength in the primary movers, while including mobility and flexibility exercises. For example, myofascial work with foam rollers, dynamic stretching, and bodyweight exercises as part of your warm-ups is necessary. At least one session per week of dedicated mobility and flexibility training is also highly beneficial for developing GPP. This can include practicing yoga and/or simply extending the mobility and flexibility work that you do as part of your warm-up into a full 20 to 30 minute session. Finally, the last piece of the exercise puzzle, exercises that stimulate both the brain and body, such as dancing, martial arts, yoga, and many sports, are immensely beneficial for physical and mental health. These activities require concentration, coordination, and balance, which can strengthen the mind-body connection, improve cognitive function, and help to maintain and improve brain health. For example, research has shown that dancing can improve cognitive function, memory, and attention span, as well as reduce the risk of developing dementia. Additionally, these activities can help to reduce stress and anxiety, improve mood and self-esteem, improve physical fitness and health, and provide a sense of community and social support, which all contribute to an overall sense of well-being. Whether you're striving to be a good parent, to build a business that generates value, or to create a healthier and happier world, having a clear purpose gives life a sense of direction and helps you feel fulfilled, satisfied, and motivated. This positive mindset improves mental health and motivates you to engage in healthier behaviors because you'll recognize the importance of your well-being in fulfilling your life's purpose. Making strides toward fulfilling your purpose can also be made into a daily practice by taking one small step towards your goal every day and mentally rewarding yourself for it. It's important when pursuing a goal to reward the pursuit of the goal rather than overemphasizing the achievement of the goal. This means that as you're doing anything that propels you towards your goal, even if it's something boring or unenjoyable, take a moment to deliberately commend yourself for working diligently and congratulate yourself when you reach minor milestones. And when you finally achieve your goal, do not get overly caught up in the moment and celebrate too much. Rewarding the pursuit rather than the achievement of a goal in this way allows you to consistently achieve goals without losing motivation and passion along the way, as well as buffers you from the postpartum depression that inevitably follows. Another practice you can implement is to perform at least one random act of kindness every day. The altruism center of the brain is a deep brain structure and is part of the primitive brain. We're wired to help one another, and the benefits of the interaction are not one-sided. Neuroscience has demonstrated that helping others is a powerful way to improve our own health. When you help others, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin are released, which has a variety of health benefits, including improving mood, sleep, digestion, memory, learning, and motivation. Helping others can take on many forms. Small repeated boosts of these neurochemicals will produce the most benefit, so find ways to give and give often. Opening a door for someone, donating money or time, or simply smiling. Furthermore, when you help others, the same neurochemicals, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, are released in the receiver, stimulating an innate desire to pass on the good deed, and thereby creating a cycle of giving and positivity. So help yourself improve your physical and mental health by helping someone else today, and start a cycle of positivity. Okay, so now you have all this information, and that's great, but it's meaningless if you don't actually perform these practices habitually. In order to cultivate these lifestyle choices into lifestyle habits, you need to leverage the two primary biological mechanisms involved in cultivating a new habit: the dopamine reward system and neuroplasticity. To leverage the dopamine reward system, set SMART goals, and when you achieve them, reward yourself mentally or physically. For example, getting a massage or buying new workout gear, something that supports the habit. When it comes to neuroplasticity, it's all about repetition. The more you perform a certain habit, the more ingrained the relevant neural circuits become. These systems are related in that behavior comes first, mood follows action. So the more you perform a habit, the easier it becomes to do, and the better you feel after you do it, which makes you want to do it more. And you even feel weird if you don't do it. For my clients, I use a habit cultivation strategy that leverages these two mechanisms over two 21-day cycles to cultivate healthy habits specifically chosen for each client. For more information, redeem a free wellness consultation on our website at risewellnessclinic.com. Also, having a supportive environment will help you stay motivated. Join Spread the Wellness, a group of like-minded individuals who want to live healthier and happier lives and help others to do the same. Thank you so much for watching this video. I sincerely hope that it helped you in some way. If it did, please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And as always, be healthy, be happy. Peace.